If I shoot a video for you, for example, you paid me to do it, but I still own the raw footage?
You own the footage with a very important exception. And this is where it starts to get muddled. The Copyright Act also says that works made for hire are owned by the person who pays. You go, well, that's simple. That's easy. If you just paid me to take this video, I own the copyright. Me, the payer. Well, no, it's not true. Even though the statute says if you pay for it, you own it. Now, there's two types of works for hire that federal law recognizes, and that is employees in the ordinary scope of their business. Mm-hmm. So you run a video production company, if you hire a camera person, and they shoot like this production right here, well, literally your camera person is shooting the production.
Right.
Now, if your camera person is a W-2 employee working within the scope of their employment, mm-hmm. the ownership of the employment work goes to the employer. Mm-hmm. If, however, the person is not an employee but an independent contractor, well, the copyright vests in the independent contractor. Now, there's important exceptions because the Copyright Act says, well, work made for hire is owned by the person who pays.
Right.
And a lot of people stop there, and there's a number of very notable companies, particularly out on the internet, that says, hey, if you pay for us, you own it, and they'll point you to that statute. Well, you know, when you get a contract and there's all this boilerplate up on the top and nobody ever reads it, mm-hmm. well, you could say there's boilerplate in the Copyright Act also. And when you open the Copyright Act, the first few sections are definitional. And one of the definitions in there is the phrase work for hire. Mm-hmm. And work for hire is very narrowly defined within the Copyright Act. It's defined to encompass employees within the ordinary course of their employment, but it's also defined to be as contractors who are working in particular areas of expression, who agree in assigned writing that their work is a work made for hire.
Okay.
And if the work that you're working in falls within one of those statutory recognized areas, and you have assigned writing saying I own the work that you're doing for me, well then, as the work is created, the title vests in you, the payer. Unfortunately for most companies, but fortunate for you, it's very, very narrowly defined. And I say fortunate for you because one of the areas that work made for hire agreements are recognized under federal law are audiovisual and movie productions. Mm-hmm. So if you're making audiovisual works, you can bring your 1099s in, have them sign a work for hire agreement. It has to be signed.
Right.
And then the title and what they do vests in you. If you don't have that, then the independent contractors retain all their ownership because the copyright vests in the author. And author and copyright just means the creative artist.
Right.
What's surprising in the Copyright Act is what's not found in there. Works of photography are not within the scope of what federal law would recognize as a work for hire agreement.
So still photos, the rights fall on the photographer no matter what?
Not no matter what, because there are a few other categories they might come under. But I'll tell you ones that never fall under. Pure advertising work won't fall under. Computer programming, you bring someone in to write code for your company, which happens all the time. That doesn't fall under a work for hire category recognized under federal law. I say sometimes for photography. The work for hire law recognizes contributions made to compilations. So if you were making a book of collected photographs, say photographs of Fayetteville, North Carolina,
right.
You could probably capture works made for hire for that collective work. Instructional texts, mm-hmm. Works for atlases. There's some very narrow areas. If the photographs were going to be used for those particular type of works, mm-hmm. then it would be enforceable. But as a general rule, I want you to come in and do still shots for me for a client. That's not going to be subject to a work made for hire. So what a lot of people will do, and what we will do, is as part of the services agreement, we'll have the person agree that there's a wide open license, that the buyer can use it for whatever purpose and any purpose they want from now until eternity without paying anything more. And the author, in this case the photographer, has a duty to assign agrees to and will assign all the copyrights once the photographs are taken. The problem with that is, it requires more documentation,
Right.
and if you want to have a transfer of the actual ownership, you have to have a written assignment.
So
Again,
a verbal
more
agreement is
paperwork.
not good enough.
verbal agreements are not good enough in any area of copyright law. And this, it's irksome, but it makes sense, because if I sell you my car, it's a pretty good indication what like I say, no, she never had a right to have my car.
Right.
Well, if you literally have possession, well, explain how she got possession of your car, and there's only one car. With copyrights, there's not really a physical possession. There's not one copy. And so
Right.
what the law says is, if you're going to have any type of agreement with copyright, it needs to be in writing and it needs to be signed. Otherwise, it's just too hard to tell what really happened. It just becomes a pure he said, she said. So
Yeah.
any copyright agreements need to be in a signed writing, or they're not enforceable.